Jamie, first the backdrop economically. We've heard from lots of CEOs, whether it's FedEx, UBS, about jitters, potentially a global slowdown. And then the Business Roundtable survey today showed a little bit of declining optimism. Is there a slowdown afoot?
What I would call a slowdown. There are always jitters. I've never been in business where there weren't jitters, and it's a little bit of a slowdown. But the Business Roundtable was very optimistic about the future. America, in particular, had less of a slowdown than the rest of the world. But one of the things we try to focus on is how do you make things better? So this initiative today is a great example how business, government in this town can get together, create jobs for kids, earning $50,000 to $80,000 a year. And so the BRT is proud to be leading this effort. And these guys did an unbelievable thing in Washington building this.
Sylvia, 93% of American graduates are in a job 6 months after graduation. So what needs to change about the degree if it's working so well already?
So at American University, we're very fortunate, as you said, 93% of our graduates are within 6 months in jobs or graduate school. But for many, making sure that we are staying connected to the needs of the business community. And that's what this partnership is about, is making sure that we know what those needs are from our students. We're giving them the curriculum and the tools that they need. And the way the partnership works is once our students complete the curriculum and have the credential, then they receive preferential treatment, both in terms of internships and jobs. So they have preference when they do these credentials. So it's keeping that tie healthy and good, so we know what's needed in the economy and we're working to provide it.
The first step is getting into college, which now I know some applicants might worry with recent news that college admission slots are for sale. How do you put those worries to rest?
You know what I would just say, the incidents of the last weeks are very disturbing to any of us in higher education. What they've done to damage trust, I think we all have to realize that it is an important thing. But I think for the vast majority of universities and the vast majority of applicants, I think they know that that is not what is happening. All of us, I'm sure, are taking steps to make sure we look at our processes, make sure if there are any things we can do to prevent that thing. There are so many great students out there. We're in the middle of the process. As a matter of fact, our letters are going out today at American University, and it is a great thing to see all these young people interested in coming.
Jamie, as a parent, did it shock you? You raised 3 kids in hyper-competitive New York City. Was there ever pressure to tip the scales?
What I read about was shocking. I mean, obviously people want to help their kids, and people that get benefits just from having tutors and things like that. But that kind of stuff was shocking. And I'll leave that to, we have enough problems ourselves, I'll leave it to higher education to deal with.
I know you gave $100,000 to Duke, where 2 of your daughters went, $50,000 to Barnard. Is that a slippery slope, though?
I don't know if that was before or after or something like that. We tend to support everything we've ever been associated with. And so I think they got in on their own rights.
I want to ask you about the Fed, too. Of course, we are the pregame for Jay Powell's decision in just a little bit. Jamie, the Fed has said that it will be patient. How long do you believe the Fed will be patient?
The Fed should, I find it amazing that people are shocked when the Fed says they're data dependent. Of course they're data dependent. Can you imagine the Fed saying they're not data dependent? I mean, when they say they're being patient, they're saying, looking at current events, it looks like it may be a while before they have to make a major decision about changing interest rates. And I have faith that they'll do the right thing based on the data they have at the time.
Do you believe the Fed is between a rock and a hard place, though? You raise rates too quickly, growth contracts, you stand pat for now, and the economy overheats?
I think that's always been true. I don't think they're between a rock and a hard place. I think they're trying to navigate what goes on today. What's going on in the U.S. economy is pretty strong. This isn't like a bad thing. And I remind people, if rates go up because the economy is strong, that's not necessarily a bad thing. A strong economy is far more important than 25 basis points effect on the economy and jobs.
You've said the trade war, if it escalates, could potentially tip the U.S. into a recession. The president just said a few minutes ago that even if we get a deal with China, where he says talks are going well, that tariffs could stay in place for a substantial period of time. How much of an overhang is that?
Well, look, I didn't hear that. I don't respond to minute-by-minute news like you guys do, because I don't think it matters at all, to tell the truth. But we have heard from the administration that they're working on very serious issues and made serious progress with China. We all like to see a deal done. And to the extent it's not done and the extent there's uncertainty, it's not good for the global economy. I'm not sure I'd say tip into a recession, but it's certainly not good. And you see that reflected in the market. Every time trade is going well, it goes up. Every time it's going badly, it goes down. And I have faith they're trying to get an intelligent deal done, and it may take a little bit of time.
Are you worried that the president is saber-rattling with Europe now, too?
Again, what I've been told is they're making progress with Europe. And the president has his methods, and I wouldn't go about them, but it's hard for me to say that some of these methods didn't get people to the table. I think both are true. We'd like to see to the table to conclusion. And we think that's the best thing for the American economy, the global economy, and the whole rest, the rest of the world.
Sylvia, we'd like to ask you to put on your hat as a former budget and health official here. The Fed chair has also said that the U.S. cannot spend as if deficits do not matter, but the conversation in the Democratic field right now is that college should potentially be free and that health care should potentially be free. Do you think those two things should happen?
So I think when we talk about the issues of deficits, I'm still of the school that deficits do matter. And they matter for the markets, they matter for the economy, and they matter for policy investments that we make as a nation. And I think we have to consider, you were just discussing the issue of the question of a potential recession. When we have the kind of debt to GDP ratios that are continuing to increase, is that a problem for our own resiliency as a nation if we go into those things? So I'm of that school. Do I think there are issues in healthcare? I think in healthcare, the most pressing issue that we can work on are what everyone agrees on across party lines, and that is access, affordability, and quality.
Do you support the 6 candidates who say that Medicare for all is the direction the country should go in?
You know, what I think we should do on all of these kinds of issues is actually focus on the substance of those 3 issues, and that's what I've said when I was secretary and what I say now. Focus on access, affordability, and quality, and I believe there are steps that we can take right now to make progress actually on all 3 of those. And whether that's in the pharmaceutical space or that's in the space of changing the way we pay for healthcare, not in terms of transactions, but pay for the outcomes. And those are the kinds of steps that I think we as a nation can work on right now.
Jamie, you said this week that America can afford anything. Can we afford $22 trillion in debt, a deficit that's nearing $1 trillion this year, the proposals that the Democratic field is putting forward, and potentially a recession at some point?
A couple of points. First of all, slogans in our policy, and we all agree we need a lot to do on health care, on infrastructure, on skills and education, thoughtful, proper policy that needs to be executed by thoughtful, bright politicians who have to lead the population to that. The debt to GDP for the world is 80% of GDP in America. So it's like net debt is like 17 or 18 billion of the GDP. It's 250% in Japan. So it's not what I totally agree with her. It's important we have fiscal discipline. It's not an immediate issue. It's not going to put the country into a recession tomorrow. But as that curve goes like this, which it does, mostly because of burgeoning healthcare costs, we should fix the problem before it becomes a problem. It will fix itself at one point. I also think policymakers should separate. We need proper business taxation, we need proper infrastructure, we need proper skills, and then how we afford to pay for it. We should not spend all our time saying you have to do this but not that, because you'll slow down growth. I mean, there should be, both Democrats and Republicans need a growth agenda that we can afford to pay for if we're intelligent.
Is it a growth agenda to regulate the big technology giants? Do you think that should happen?
Well, no, but again, that's a very, people say that we made binary arguments. It's not binary. If someone has a reason where competition is unfair, then maybe you need regulation. And that's true for all of our businesses. So, to me, if people have legitimate complaints, people should look at where should there be fair competition. We all deal with that. We all have to deal with antitrust and competition and things like that. So, and I'm not an expert in tech policy, but to the extent that they should do the same thing, they should look at it.
But you're an expert in managing a company under fire, and frankly, the approach to tech feels a lot like the approach to banks after the financial crisis. Executives hauled before Congress multi-billion-dollar fines and proposals to break up these massive companies. Do you sympathize with them?
They haven't had the benefit of the full Monty yet, and if I were them, I'd be getting prepared for it.
What advice would you offer to Mark Zuckerberg?
Really get prepared for it. And look, it seems to me like they're doing a lot of work on privacy and robots and democracy and who can advertise their platforms. But it's a lot of work. And my experience has always been when you get attacked by someone, you get one group, it could be every country, every AG, every regulator, all at the same time. So any company that is under attack like that or threat, they should really gear up and look at it as a very broad-based, extensive type of thing they have to deal with, and listen carefully to the complaints on the side. There are sometimes legitimate complaints you should be very, very reactive to.
But you're in the business of underwriting and advising these companies. How long are you telling them to be prepared for the onslaught? And are you putting forth models that show what the sum of the parts would be if you break them up?
Well, that's a whole different issue. I think we would offer help to any client of ours who asks for help. And how they run their company and what they split up, and that's a whole different issue.
Sylvia, one company, one big tech giant in this area that is getting a pat on the back, at least here in Washington, is Amazon for the investment that it is making. When you talk to students, what's the appetite of students to go work for Amazon in Crystal City, National Landing, And do you think that they will be able to deliver 25,000 good-paying jobs?
You know, I think the effort that we're talking about today with the Greater Washington Partnership is about bringing together the needs of our community, our economy in this Greater Washington area with what universities provide. And I think our students at American University are quite excited about that, because at American University, 91% of our students are doing experiential learning. That means internships, and they're excited about that. The numbers you stated in our We Know Success website, where we tell people after you finish your degree at American University, within 6 months, are you in graduate school, you have a job. Those numbers are 93%. Having a place like Amazon here is, I think, a great thing for our students, and they're excited about it. I think they're also excited about having an innovation and technology sense to the community that they might be staying in once they've come here.
Jamie?
Can I just add, this is really important. One of the reasons that companies come here is because they have great universities, that they can draw out really attractive kids. But the 25,000 jobs, if people understand, it's going to be another 75,000 outside of that. When you have a company that move here, they need people who prepare meals and clean floors, to engineers, to marketing people, to lawyers, to accountants, to service that whole ecosystem. So actually, you can't lift up the whole community, add affordable housing, so you lift up, you don't over gentrify stuff like that. And so these are huge benefits, and it's because the place is hospitable to business and wants to create jobs for kids and the health of the university system. University systems are often the ecosystem around which is huge success. I mean, you can look at Boston, you can look at Silicon Valley, you can look at parts of New York, you can look at Washington, D.C.
Did New York make a mistake in pushing Amazon away, and how much more are you investing here because of the expectation that they will grow more here?
No, of course they made a mistake, because it would have been 100,000 jobs in total there, which, like I said, would have been jobs across the whole spectrum. And the mistake people made about New York, the tax benefits, New York has the highest real estate rates, the highest individual rates, the highest corporate rates. Those are effectively a reduction of those rates for a time period. And so, I think it would have been hugely beneficial for New York, but if New York doesn't want them, so be it, they can go elsewhere.
A lot of this is sounding
But it's not so bad for us, because they would have competed for the same people I want.
Jamie, you're dexterous in your political speak. You had a salon dinner off the record with some reporters last night, and
Way off the record, huh?
Well, the fact of the dinner was reported, but a funny blog on Dealbreaker on Monday said that your workforce announcement was one flag lapel pin short of a campaign event. Is this you testing the waters?
No. I am a patriot at heart. It's far more important to me than J.P. Morgan. And we are making a full effort to help anywhere we can help our country and work skills. We announced the $350 million program around the world, trying to do exactly what they're doing here. And it's it's got to work locally. It does not work anywhere else. So we're going out with RFPs to local universities, community schools, mayors, and so we can create the same kind of ecosystem that's working here to lift up those communities.
What do you hope President Trump tells the Business Roundtable when he meets with you guys tomorrow?
My experience with President Trump, he says whatever he wants to say.
Jamie Dimon, Sylvia Burwell, we appreciate both of your time today. Thank you so much.